Hello there, and welcome to my Arty Corner here on YouTube. My name's Angela Porter, and amongst other things, I'm an artist. I'm best known for my grown-up colouring books, the Colour Me series, Colour Me Calm, Colour Me Happy, Colour Me Sleep, and so on, as well as many for Creative Haven and a tutorial book called A Dangle a Day. But I was once a science teacher. I'm no longer a science teacher. I focus on art, but it doesn't mean I've lost the teaching instinct in me, I suppose, and the desire to encourage and inspire and help people to learn and to develop what skills they have. And although science is quite a rigid discipline, art isn't so. I also encourage you to discover your own way of doing things and give you the structures, but it's more important that you find your own way of drawing things, of expressing your own lines and making it yours. So draw along with me as you wish. If you decide you don't like something I do, change it, do something you do. But that's the whole point, is that's how we learn, that's how we grow, and that's how we develop. Oops, tea disappearing underneath the camera there, I'm putting it out of my way. So I'd just like to say thank you to everybody who subscribed. I say this every video and I really, really mean it. I'm so grateful. If it wasn't for you, I may not still be making videos because I may have exhausted my words for myself. But you help me by being here because it helps me speak out what's going on in my head and explain myself, which helps me understand myself better. I hope that makes sense. And in a way I can share what wisdom, knowledge, understanding I have personally and encourage you that way. So thank you ever so much. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. It doesn't cost you a penny, it costs you nothing to click the button, but it will make me very happy and it earns you my eternal gratitude. And thank you for likes and comments, shares and shout outs as well. I'm always very, very appreciative of such things. So on with the art. Here is where I left off in the last video. I've done nothing else to this other than I forgot to press the autofocus before I started. Yeah, I know. One day I might remember. It's not going to be any time soon by the looks on it. Anyway, I ought to write a checklist to stick somewhere. Have you done this? Sounds like too much effort. Anyway, so in my last video for you, I drew a whimsical bird and started to put it on a branch of flowers and so on. And I was thinking of having a U shape of flowers going up here, but I'm not so sure about that yet. I suspect this area might be filled with flowers and so on. And perhaps leaves or something going up here, but we'll see what happens. I put the rough guidelines in. I think looking back on it, I've put the bird and the branch a bit too far up. It perhaps should have been a bit lower down. I don't know. But it matters not. It's all part of learning, is that this is something I can write on the back when I finished, my reflections on this, what things I've learned and what things I'm going to try not to do again. I've also got this book out, which is one of my visual sort of like journals or diaries or collections, Zibaldoni I call it, my visual reference, where I put things that I've looked and I've seen and I like in here, and then I use it as a source to remind me of things, because I can get very stuck in doing one kind of thing and I tend to find it difficult then to break out. So having something like this reminds me of different flower shapes, different ways of putting flowers together, petal shapes and embellishments and so on. And of course, I make things up as I go along as well, because that's what I do. So I think I want to fill down here, but I've got this feeling almost like there's a branch going across here. So perhaps I'll finish that off on the end here with perhaps some, I'm trying to work this out. If I put it this way, it does seem that this is going down here. So let's have a look and see if we can get some, perhaps some leafy fronds down here. Of course, I can always decide that where the bottom of this page is isn't where I want it to be now. I can always bring this up, can't I? And I might very well do that actually, because that would solve part of my problem, or the problem that I perceive here. So I think I'll do that. Let me just reach for a ruler a moment, because I have a pencil. So perhaps if I bring this up, let's have a look. About here would be quite nice, I think. Oh, it does help if I actually have the lead sticking out. Otherwise, all I'm doing is embellishing, or just not embellishing, embossing down into this. And what I'm going to do is I am going to take an eraser, take my kneadable one, less mess, and I am just going to erase all of this at the bottom and up the sides as well for a moment, because I've readjusted where things are and what I'm doing. So let's have a look, because I think if I pop some nice big, perhaps we pop another big flower here and perhaps some smaller ones tucked behind it. I've got some space here then for some really little ones, haven't I? Like a spray of them. But I also have got space if I want to add some leaves falling downwards, because we could have some more on this side. But then perhaps we'll have something under the bottom as well. Perhaps not to fill it up entirely, but perhaps just to create a place where these are growing out of, where the bird is perching in amongst the leaves and flowers. I think I'd like, looking at this, my flowers and everything else to sort of like swoop this way, and that's a bit too close to the bird really. So let's move it over so that I can add some more flowers here that perhaps go behind this lovely bird. And it is a lovely bird. I'm quite happy with that little bird. Let's add some more flowers, some tucked behind, some side by side, and let's have them getting that little bit smaller towards the top, and then I can add in some more foliage, and perhaps down here I think perhaps let's make some here that are perhaps a little bit smaller, and perhaps there. That's better, because then this corner here is where I can add perhaps some little sprays of foliage. We'll see. Those aren't very exactly the lines I want, and I'll work out what I'm going to do here afterwards. Leaves, definitely. Some little sprays like that would be quite nice. So I think that's looking okay. I think so. And I'm going to carry on with this. So I've got flowers here, and I'm quite happy to have different kinds of flowers all on the same stem. Basically, this is my world, so I can do what I like with it. And I quite like flowers that have sort of like almost like a central section that the petals don't join to, as it were. So I'm using my pencil outline here just to work out where I want to put these shapes in, and then we're going to turn these into petals. I could just join them with a nice smooth arc, or I could make them heart-shaped. I've got heart-shaped ones here, so let's do something that's a little bit on the different side, like so. I am trying to think what flowers this reminds me of, but they're escaping me. Here I felt I needed to just pop that tiny little corner of a flower there, which is ridiculous, but it's me. I know it's there, and even if I do nothing with it, well, I will, because if I add colour, I will colour that tiny little space in to match this particular flower. I'll come back with these segments and sections here. So I'm going to do the same kind of flower here, and I think I'm going to have this one tucking in here, overlapping this one behind, because again I can choose then whether I put a flower here or whether I use this area for something else. So I am going to pop these V shapes in first. They're very long, very thin, but they do sort of come to a rounded point. And they don't have to be exactly the same distance. That's a particularly wobbly and wonky one there. But I am mindful that we're going to see some of these shapes in places. What I don't want is this disappearing into this V shape, this one here. So I want it as if it's going behind it, this particular flower completely. So that's quite nice as well. Yeah, it's probably got more petals than this one, but I'm not counting petals. And then I think I'll do just one more of this kind of flower here. Now instead of having a perfect circle here, I've slanted it, or I've made it shorter and wider. So stretched it to the sides. So it gives the idea that I might be looking at a flower that's bending away from us a little bit. So I can help with that if I bend these V shapes a little bit, imagining which way the petals would move as I add these. And this is my last one, so it's going behind here, so nobody will see the end of it, so that makes life so much easier. Like so. Now I could leave these areas open, but I don't particularly want to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop a little arch a little way down inside them, not right up at the top. I want it to appear that there's kind of something else underneath. Gives me the opportunity then to use different colours perhaps. And the same here. And it means that I don't have to try and match the other flowers up underneath. They're my flowers. It's my world. They can do what I want them to do. And I think I'll add another one of these flowers down here. So let me have a look. It's ever so warm here already this morning. And my computer tells me it's 22 degrees Celsius out, but the sun is so strong. We just passed solstice, summer solstice here in the UK. So we're, in the Northern Hemisphere as well, not just the United Kingdom. And that means, oh, I've closed those off right on the end. That's fine, it'll be fine. And perhaps I'll pop a smaller one under here, just to finish that kind of spray off nicely, I think. So yeah, from June onwards it tends to be hotter here in the UK. And of recent years we've had lovely balmy autumn times as well. But it's too warm for me. I'm not a fan of the heat at all. And so I've got a fan on, so hopefully you can't hear it because my noise cancelling software in my computer's really good. So fingers crossed. But if you do, I'm going to apologise here and now. I'm going to have some tea because I need to drink a lot because it's too warm otherwise. Now up here I'm going to put some interesting flowers in, I think, that will be different again, but I think will make an interesting variation. So I've drawn a circle, and then in this circle I've drawn an arc. The next arc, I'm not going to start where this would have joined the circle. I'm going to start a little way up. I'm going to go there, and then I'm going to finish this off by doing this. So it's almost like I've got petals overlapping so I can see inside. And inside here I'm just going to put 3 little teardrop shapes. It's very simple. These petals you can't really see, but if I add colour or shading, I can make the edges that are further away darker and the top bits lighter, and of course the centre darker as well. And I may actually I'll pop a little centre in there as well, so I can actually have that really deep, like it's going down inside the flower, down towards the stem. So I'll do another one of those, and again I'll draw it one step at a time. So let's start this at a slightly different place. So I'm going to draw that arc in. Then I'm going to start not right at the bottom, but a little bit up. I'm going to draw it down and it would join there. And I'm going to start here a little bit up from the bottom, but join it further up there. So we've got a kind of wrapping going on. And with these little teardrop shapes, I am kind of pointing them towards where these overlap, so we get a little triangular arrangement, sort of. So that's really quite sweet. And I'm going to add one more in here, because 2s never look right to me, 3s always do. So let's do another one. So down, I've got to imagine where this would be, and it would come up here, and then I can start close there and overlap perhaps a bit further there, and then 3 little teardrop shapes in and a circle to close them up. So that's quite nice. I'll come back and do flowers, leaves and buds and things in a moment. I've almost got space here for another one, because that feels a really awkward connection here. I know a leaf there would help, I think, but that kind of shape might as well. Up here, I do want some tiny, tiny little flowers, or flowers that get increasingly tiny. So what I'm doing is I'm putting a cross of 4 little lines. They're not joined in the middle. I'm leaving the space open. There, suggestion that there might be a circle or something in there. Bring that out with colour, and then I'm going to just use these to draw, to help guide where I'm going to draw almost like the lobes of petals. So I'm not joining the petals up to the centre or to these lines. I'm starting in between them a little way out and then going in this kind of shape. Show you again. So the 4 little lines, and perhaps if I move over here and I draw it in this direction, you'll see my pen. So around, around, around. There's another one here and here, and it just tucks behind. If you wanted to draw cherry blossom sakura, you can do that with 5 lines, so you get 5 petals, but I just thought 4 would be quite nice. So my last one, these will be tiny, and it will go here, and I'll finish this spray off here with yeah, this is really awkward here, so I need to do something, but I'm going to finish this off with, I think I might finish it off actually with perhaps a twig with some leaves on. And I've gone outside the border I drew on, but that's not a problem or an issue for me. So that's quite nice. And in fact I need to add some more because it looks a bit sparse. But once you've got the first ones in, I find it's easy to do. And strictly speaking, leaves get bigger the further down the branch you go. I can sneak another one in there. And perhaps I can then have some that sort of like poke out from behind these little flowers, which would be quite nice. And perhaps just one there. So that's all of those. I'm just going to swap my pen. I've got an 01 here. So I do want to put the central vein in, like so. These are very tiny leaves, so I'm not sure I'm going to put much in the way of details of veins. I might do actually on one side. Yeah, that leaf really is almost too small even for a vein. And there's this here as well. I just think this might benefit from a leaf top as well. Just there, and perhaps another one. So they're starting to overlap here a little bit. There we go, so that's quite nice. I think I need to fluff this bit out a little bit more with flowers and things, because this really does look that little bit more awkward, doesn't it? So I really want to make this more as if we're drawing a crescent moon, I think. So that would be quite nice, and then down to here perhaps, and might need a few more flowers there. This is okay. So it's just looking at the shape. So I'm getting close to the edge of the paper here, but it is what it is. I'm never very good at laying things out, which is why I do things in pencil, because I can always adjust. And if things end up growing a bit too close to the edge, well, it's fine. It is what it is. You know, most of my art is reproduced, is I scan in, and if I was going to use it, I'd use a digital version. So I can trim the edge of the paper appropriately if I wish. But this is likely to end up in a sketchbook rather than anywhere else, and then I can always use it as a basis for other kinds of art, or to redraw in some way, or as a source of ideas and inspiration. I'm just going to fill these little holes in between the flowers where they are with little bits of black, just to... It's that contrast that helps to separate items one from another. Here I think I may, let's have a look, pop another one of these in. Like so. Can't see the bottom part of it, but I can imagine this kind of shape in the middle, and then to show that it's similar to the other flowers that are there, put the same centre in, and then that gives me that feeling that they belong. So how's this looking? That looks a bit better, but I still want something on this edge, and I think leaves may do that. I do think leaves might just do that, so we can get a bit more fancy schmancy with our leaves. So I'm putting some leaves in here that are a little bit different. So I'm going up to a point, going down like this, then going up to a point like that, and then coming back, and I'd go down there and back, but my leaf would come round here. I wouldn't see that little bit there. So that's quite nice. And I can do the same here perhaps. So I've drawn the point of this leaf. I'm going to go up to that point and then have that curling around. As on this side, this is hidden underneath that leaf. And perhaps here, so we've got that going on, which is quite nice. I like those leaves actually. And with these, I'm just going to put some more of these little pointy leaves in that we've had along here. Just put the veins in. With these ones I have options. I could try to draw veins coming in from these points, but I'm not going to. Oh, look, that vein's gone there. But I'll have a look, and I may come back and add some veins like this to one side. Part of me is wishing I didn't put the lines in on the lighter side, just left them blank. So that's quite nice. And I think here I may just add, I think I might just drop one of these down here, just for because I can. And again, it's tying, it's sort of like making things blend together, so almost like they belong, I guess. And I can sometimes it's easier to work out where you want the point of the leaf to be and then start from that place, like this. And I'm just going to do one more of these. Like so. Put those centre veins in. Like so. And then I'm just looking at this for balance. We need something along the edge. Here I definitely need something. And I just think this might be another one of these leaves. So I know I've got the outside edge is thicker. And then we have all of these veins on this side all close together. And then just a couple on the other side to suggest something's going on there. Okay, so that's balanced that, but I need some leaves here. Oh, just noticed I didn't put veins in that one. So may swap out the leaves because I started these leaves with these particular round shapes, but here I think I might go with some very flat curved leaves, I think, like so. So my next job, I'm going to do this before I decide anything else, is to start to add weight to the bottom and left, or inside, top and right if I want something that looks hollow, to all of these, so that we get some dimension going here. It doesn't take too long. Once you get into the rhythm of it, you don't have to think too much about it, it just happens. So we've got those. Let's do these leaves. So it'll be the left, and a little bit at the bottom, and there's a bottom there. That's part of a bottom. That's the bottom edge of the leaf. That's a bottom and that's a bottom. So left and bottom. This one, there's more of it pointing up, you know, upwards, as if the light would hit it on the top there, so we're not going to do that one. This one I'm going to do under here and there, there, and there. This is the bottom, as is that, and that there. Okie doke, so that's all of those done. Got the remainder of these flowers here like this to do. So left and bottom. This is the bottom, I suppose. It doesn't matter too much. I think on the top ones you end up with shadow on both sides, so don't overthink it. Just do what you think. And I've said this before and I'll say it again, as long as you don't point it out to somebody, unless they're hypercritical, they're not going to notice. So we all know we've made mistakes where we could have done things better, perhaps, or you know, you had a sudden shake of the hand and might have got a slightly wobblier line than you wanted, for example. But often, unless it's really bad, you know, really, really huge and noticeable, most people wouldn't notice that. So it's about learning when something is good enough, or working it into the design, or just not drawing attention to it, you know, by pointing it out to people. Easier said than done though, isn't it? Especially if you're like me and I'm very critical of my own art and very self-deprecating. And so if somebody says, oh, that's really lovely, I say, oh yeah, but look there, I did this wrong. And they go, where? And they can't see what I can see. But once they've worked it out, they'll always see it. So it's hard not to tell somebody, oh, there's a mistake here. But it's about, most people look at art, I think, from an overall kind of perspective. They look at the whole thing. Whereas they might look at the individual sections and bits and pieces, they won't be able to take everything in. So unless it's a really glaring mistake, like your hand wobbles right the way across and makes a horrible scribble, or you spill ink, or the colour has gone everywhere, unless you make perhaps a feature of it or make it look deliberate, then people aren't actually going to notice. So don't point it out. Accept the compliments, something I'm trying to learn to do, and just accept that people haven't seen what might be there. Because there are things you can do to sort of model makers, like Adam Savage, they use the term hide the crimes. So if something goes a little bit wrong, you do something just to hide it up. And it's like using a white gel pen to disguise where you've made you've slipped up with a black pen on a white background. And part of me is realising I love to draw on coloured backgrounds, but here today with this I might have been better off working on white paper, because I know I'll have a problem when I scan this in and decide to crop the image, that the paper's got this lovely darker edge to it. So I'll have darker edges in some areas but not in others. So I would have been better off working on plain coloured paper or white paper. White's best. And then add colour digitally. I have to get in the habit of creating these backgrounds and then scanning them in, because I can put scanned backgrounds behind a drawing and they can show through. Digital art is a wonderful thing. Digital tools are marvellous. So what I've done here is that one I haven't thickened the lines on. So I've got some sense of dimension and thickness of lines and so on going here, and that's beginning to look quite nice. And I sort of quite like this shape. It's a bit strange over here, so I am thinking about adding another frond or two. Here I'm not putting a whole vein in, I'm just putting lines at the base of the leaves, just to add some ink there, some darkness there, to give that suggestion of shadow and volume and so on. Just going there. So perhaps I could perhaps we can add another one here. And yet it's going to overlap these leaves, but that's not a problem. If anything, it adds some interest and it adds layers to the drawing. So I'm just going back and thickening some of the edges of the leaves up to give that dimension, and use my finer pen just to add these at the base, like so, which is lovely. And then I can't leave alone, can I? Now, do I want them? I think if they came this way it would look a bit awkward, so we'll put the last spray of leaves in here. Perhaps not as long. As the others, but just to finish this edge off perhaps, and I'll get a partial leaf in there. As I look back at this, I think I had that intention of having those sprays going up each side, and but I quite like this, how it's worked out now. I think having the flexibility to change things as your drawing happens and evolves is a good thing. So pencil's always good. I know if you're into Zentangle, then you use strings which are fairly, you know, simple or random, or, you know, basic shapes. And I know some people do things that are a lot more complicated than that. This is a bigger piece of paper. It's A5, which is half letter size in America, roughly. So I've got more space for the detail, but I just wanted to put the basic shapes of the items in. Now, one thing I think I might do up here is, and I am going to try to get this fairly straight. So what I'm doing is I'm lining up the center of this leaf here with that line. I'm going to try to draw this as vertical as I can. So I'm just putting a little dangle there, the little heart, add a little bow there, and a bead, and perhaps another bead, and perhaps a teardrop one, some weight to hold it down, as it were. So I quite like that. That adds something there. And we've got all of this open space around, but I'm going to leave that, I think. The one thing I do want to do is I do want to add something. I've got some space here behind the birds that I want to do something with, and I think I might just fill this space in with little circles, like little seeds perhaps. It's Zentangle filler pattern called Tipple, I think it is. I could be wrong. And that just fills that space in, that gap in nicely, so that we haven't got awkward gaps here. And I'm going to do the same here underneath the bird, between the bird's legs, just to add that. And then we need something here, I think, and I'm going to do the same thing above this flower, and perhaps this one, until I get to another leaf. I'm just going to pop in here, so that this area is filled in underneath the bird. It was just bugging me because I just wanted something tucked in behind, really, and I think that leaf will give me that tucked in characteristic that I'm looking for. So I'm just adding in the lines of the leaves like this, and there, I'm not going to say I'm good to go here, I'm not quite yet. There's a few things I want to do, and I am going to add some lines to these leaves, the halves that are going to be in shadow. Now that needs to be a bit thicker there, and I am making them, if they butt up against another leaf, go in a different direction, so it doesn't look like it's a continuation. And with these ones I am actually curving them a little. And I realise as I'm doing this, I could have broken those lines to give that hint of sparkle. Now here I am going to have the points of these leaves joining back to the stem almost, and then I'm going to make all the other leaves, the veins on this side, follow them. And here I'm not really paying attention, am I, to which side would be in shadow. Not a problem. So let's just go like this. Again, I could have broken these lines up to add highlights and so on, but I'm going to rely, I think, on colour doing that for me, or shading perhaps. Highlighting would be a better way of describing it. So I'm going to do this one here, this one, and do this. This paper, it's all media paper from C. White of Brighton. It's from a sketchbook. I'll often take paper out of a sketchbook and cut it into smaller pieces, colour it like I've done here. And then sometimes it ends up back in a sketchbook, sometimes it doesn't. Or a different sketchbook, maybe not the original one. I like sketchbooks, but I'm not a fan of drawing in them. I much prefer to take the paper out of them to draw on. So I can draw on a flat surface like this. So I'm beginning to get some interest here, some contrast going. And I do think I'm going to have to put some lines in on the other sides of these leaves. And I think I will break these ones up on these newer leaves just for that variation, perhaps. And a little bit closer perhaps than these ones, not so straight as well, because I'm curving these lines just that bit. Not all of them are broken, and that's fine. This one I haven't done the dense side. I'm going to do the denser side next to the bird because it will help to separate the leaf from the bird, I suppose. That's what I'm trying to do. You've got that contrast there. So that's quite nice. So that actually works. These littler leaves up here, I do want to do something similar, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put some lines in like this where they join up. They're the equal density on each side, but I'm going to use the slant of the lines to suggest the leaf perhaps isn't flat, that it's bent in some way. I don't know if that works, but it is what it is, and we work with what we've got. And again, it's that if I use colour or some shadow here, then that will just bring these out. And I can play with that sense of volume or dimension that way. Okay, so that's all the leaves done. Now already that is looking a lot more ornate than it did. But I've got some petals here that are a little bit on the uninteresting side, shall we say. So I think what I'm going to do here is with these, I'm going to start a little bit way down, and I'm going to give them little curl ups as if the tips of the petals are curled over. I'm not going to do this one though, because it looks like these are bending down perhaps. Well, let me have a look. It works on that one, so it should work on this one in a strange kind of way, but it will work. And I'll do all of these the same. So these are a funny kind of shape. You go, start along the line, you go up, down, and the end curves again. So it's almost like a strange W. So you exaggerate the middle curve of the W and you make the outside edges very small. So I'll try again. I'll do it so you can see. So that's where we start the W, up in the middle of the W and down again. So I'm going to start the edge of the W. I'm going to make the middle bit, it's a distorted W. Let's just leave it at that. And we need to make sure it's on all of them. So that's added some interest there. Here, I think I'm going to add some interest by popping some stamen with a little heart on to each petal like that. I think that looks nice. This is a very wobbly line, I've just noticed. Very uneven, but it's fine. And are there any other? I think everything else will be fine. These ones are too small to add any detail to, really. Oh, here I haven't done the this bit here. I'm just going to thicken the inside circle to the top and right. Have I got any others? No. And then for these I'm going to again thicken the bottom and the left, bottom and to the left of each of these, just to give them that feeling they're lifting up above the centre. There's some volume to them as well. Doesn't take much to do, and I've missed this one for the thickening of lines to give that kind of dimension going on there. So we'll just do that. And that then, I think, I think, it's the left and bottom of all of these as well. Just there, just to lift that up. I think that, ooh, that'll do. And these here as well could do with the lines being thickened to the left and bottom as well. Again, it just helps with adding that feeling of they're thicker, and perhaps we're seeing the edge in places but not in others, how thick the edge is. So right, okay, so there's the bottom and that there. That'll do. That one will do too. Here, a little bit there. To the left and bottom. There we go. So that added some volume to those as well. And what I may do here, I'm not sure. I could add something here, but I'm not going to. I've just decided not to, because I think I would end up with everything being a bit messy. I'm just looking at where I've perhaps not finished lines off. Okay, so my next job, got my eraser over here, is to erase as many of the pencil lines as I can. I am going to leave this lower line in here because I may come and add a kind of frame of some kind around this. I don't know yet, but I do want to erase as much of this pencil as I can before I even think about adding shadow or colour. Now I think I'll just erase all of that because I won't get confused then. And I guess underneath here I've now got a space, if I wish, where I could all of this stuff here. Honestly, we're getting a mess. I get in a mess easily. Okay, let's just brush it up. It's time for my little Midori eraser sweeper. Little car. One of the silliest purchases I've ever made. I doubted it would even work, but it actually does, as long as you don't. You have to go back and forth a bit, but it will eventually get everything or nearly everything up. So I'm quite happy that's just about everything. And I'll just give it a quick sweep over here because it will pick up bits that perhaps I've, oh, some there. There's a couple of bits there, but that's fine. Most of it's in there, so rather than on the floor, which is always a bonus. So there we go. That's the drawing as far as I want to create it. My next job is to think about where I'm going to put shadowing and colour and highlight, but I'm not entirely sure how I want to do that. So I'm going to sit with this for a day or two before I come back on another video. And I'd love to use alcohol markers. My problem is this paper. They do tend to bleed an awful lot. I have Inktense pencils which actually might work okay, but I tend to find I don't get as smooth a finish. I have my Karin Pro brush markers which are water soluble ink in them, so I may use those. I don't know. Actually, they might be quite nice because I quite like a really brightly coloured bird. You have to let me know what you think I should do now. Leave a comment in the, underneath the video. Just drop a comment in and say what you think would be the best approach for this, and see whether you and I agree in the end. It's not a competition. There's no prizes up. But what do you think? What colours do you think? There we go. So what colour scheme do you think? Because I'm not very good with colour. Well, I don't think I am. I think I can get... I'm not very good at choosing colours that work well together. I can end up with a pig's dinner, dog's dinner. It's the saying. A right mess. But yeah, so there we are. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you've been able to follow along. I also need to think whether I'm going to add anything around here. What I'm tempted to think of is, if I add colour, or even if I don't, putting some little sparkles here, perhaps gold to go with the background. So there's like little twinkles and sparkles that sort of form a square frame around. I'm not going to go along a square frame, but do you know what I mean? Where they come to an end, where those lines would be. So it helps to give that frame, but I think that would be quite nice. But yeah, so let me know. So I'm now going to finish, and I'm going to say thank you if you stuck through to the end here. I appreciate that so much. If you've enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you have had a go at drawing along with me, I'd love to see what you do. If you share on social media, just tag me. And my tags are in the description below, how you can tag me on the platforms I use. And I look forward to seeing you again for the next video, which must probably be more or less the final one, where I add colour or shadow, and then I'll show you the finished one. I won't do it all in one video, it'd take me far too long, but we'll see what happens. So until then, look after yourselves and find time to be creative. Bye for now. Bye. Hwyl. Ta-ta.